The way I came up with writing an iRules contract was because I was working with youth and families where I live in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. I was hearing a lot of the families talk about technology and talk about some of the challenges that they were having, and also some of the ways it was just becoming part of their children's lives. And so when I was hearing some of these questions and concerns, I started to think about my own 5 children. And so I was thinking about the tech in their lives and how I wanted it to be in their lives. So when my son was 13, he's now 19, but when he was 13, I was thinking, I want him to have technology, but how do I want him to have technology? And so the iRules contract was an opportunity for me to outline exactly what my expectations were so that he could have a healthy relationship to it, he could enjoy it, but he could also be safe and smart and learn to make good decisions with it. The idea about the right age for a smartphone is the million-dollar question. It's the question I get all the time from parents all over the world. And so what I ask parents to think of, because I don't think there is one right age, I think that families need to think about their child and their family system and what is right for their family. So what we want to look at is, are they having a healthy relationship to the technology that's already in their lives? Maybe they're using the internet for school, maybe they're playing a video game, maybe they're even chatting over text messaging. And how is that going? Are they having good experiences, opportunities to practice, opportunities for learning? And then when we do decide to give them that phone, are we giving them guidance and support? Are we mentoring them? Have we set up our expectations for how we want them to behave? And so we want to remember that young people are beginners, that they need the wisdom of adults to provide that support for how they will use the technology. And so any age can be appropriate as long as they have the guidance and support of a trusted adult and that they've had lots of opportunities for practice and for learning around technology. So the way that I think about supervision and monitoring and passwords is really an idea to meet the needs of the child. So how old is the child? How does the child behave with the technology? And how can we support them? And so when I have that sense of how it's being used, then I want to say, do you need anything? Can I help you? How can I support you? What do you need? Who are you chatting with? What did you see today? And so as monitoring to me is about engagement, it's about communication, and not just reading to make sure that they never make a mistake. My expectation is not that a young person would never make a mistake. My expectation is that mistakes are normal and part of life, and it's my job as their parent to support them and help them learn from those mistakes. I think it's really important that parents do have the password so that they can access the devices if they need to. I think that's just a basic safety step. I don't think it's a violation of privacy. And as long as parents respect that idea that they have the password, they have the key to the locked room should they need it. We're very familiar with talking about what happens on the street if somebody approaches you, or what happens if someone says something to you unkind in the classroom. We teach our kids how to handle that. We need to be teaching in the same way about how they go online. But the more we're talking about it, the more we're talking about how we want a child to report to us, right? That I call it the askable adult, that every young person should have an adult in their life that they can come to and ask questions. So the healthier the relationship with adults and kids, the healthier the experiences are, even if some challenges show up. One of the most common questions I get is about Silicon Valley and the parenting choices that tech icons make. And so the way I think about that is we can use that as a guide, as a point of reference or something to consider, but we don't use that as a prescription for what we do, right? We want to think about our own families. We want to think about educating our kids about the digital world. Regardless if we say yes to video games or a smartphone or social media, the internet still exists in the world. So even if we say no, it might be at school, at a friend's house, at the library, on a bus. So the internet is part of society. It is part of culture in the world. And so just saying no to it without any education doesn't feel like enough to me. And so when I hear about Silicon Valley, I think of that conversation in a silo. I think of this conversation without any nuance. And we have to consider it as part of the bigger picture in that even if we're saying no, we're still saying yes to education. And that every family has a right to make a choice for themselves, whether they say yes to a smartphone very early or they wait until much later. There needs to be parental support, parental communication, and engagement, regardless of yes or no to a device. Being present is a gift to ourselves. It's not a punishment. It's not something we should be ashamed of. So thinking about where we might want to integrate some screen-free time for ourselves, because our devices can be distracting. They can take up a lot of our attention, and we might not even notice that we have the habit of picking up our phone a lot. Or if we're waiting, that we're saying, oh, this is uncomfortable to wait, or it's uncomfortable to have a conversation with somebody new, so I want to turn to my phone to be that comfort. So some of it is just saying, I'm just going to sit right now. Sometimes we have to take a few breaths to get to that experience because it can be uncomfortable to break a habit, but also that life is happening very fast. Our kids are growing up, our children are doing beautiful things, craving our attention, loving being together with us. And so we want to be present for those experiences without coming from a place of shame, but really coming from a place of meaning and purpose and connection. And when we value those things, when we value being present to listen to our child about what they experienced during school, or to listen to our partner about what their day was like away from home, that's saying, I care enough about you to create this space for you.